Hello everyone. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present today. My name is Philemon Poux and I am a PhD candidate at Paris 2 in France. Today, I wish to present our research results suggesting that blockchain-based tools could be adapted to address some of the governance challenges raised by common pool resources. This research was conducted with Primavera De Filippi and Simona Ramos. In that regard, I will first summarize state-of-the-art research about CPR's governance before presenting our research findings and proposals. I will finish this presentation by discussing the challenges that it raises and how we can move forward. So let me start by presenting what the commons are and what we know about their governance. Common pool resources, also known as CPR, are subtractable goods with high cost of exclusion. And for a long time, it was suggested that only private or public ownership could sustainably manage CPRs. In the 80s, Elinor Ostrom, Nobel Prize in Economics, rehabilitated the commons that had been under harsh attacks for years. Ostrom and the Bloomington School showed how it was possible for communities to organize sustainable governance of CPRs through good communication and establishment of rules. To do so, they developed a framework that allowed them to analyze governance situations through an institutional lens. This is called the Institutional Analysis and Development Framework, from now on referred to as IAD. In particular, they identified 8 design principles that yield higher probability of sustainable governance. Although they are not mandatory for successful governance, as there is no one-size-fits-all model, it is important to note that these principles include monitoring and policing of and by commoners. These design principles can be enacted through the implementation of 7 types of rules depicted on this diagram, namely boundary, position, choice, information, aggregation, scope, and payoff rules. There exist 1,000 different implementations of these rules throughout the world, and this framework is the most useful tool to analyze and to design CPR management systems. If we are to add digital tools for the governance of CPRs, we should build out of this framework. So I will now tell you why and how we believe that is. Because blockchains were created to promote alternative modes of organization and system management, they appear as natural candidates for the governance of CPRs. However, the corpus of literature actually studying how they could be used is rather scarce. The following papers are, we believe, the most advanced in that line of research. Howell and Podgieter have discussed the governance of blockchains as commons, underlining the theoretical consistency of linking commons and blockchains. Rosas et al. Have 2 papers on community-based peer-produced digital commons and global commons in which they assess the compatibility of blockchains and the 8 design principles. They show that compatibility is quite high. Lastly, Silla et al. Have been influential in identifying the opportunities and key challenges of blockchain-based commons governance. By means of the example of an energy community, they clearly lay out dilemmas that will intrinsically emerge with distributed ledger technology. Aware of these points, we are able to propose having recourse to distributed ledgers for the governance of CPRs, including natural commons. That would entail a change of paradigm from monitor and sanction, as we have seen previously, to automate and verify. Indeed, information and rules would be encoded ex ante, while hash of information could be recorded ex post to ensure transparency and verifiability. This shift of paradigm could result in triggering a new governance dynamic in settings where mutual trust is low or policing particularly hard to enforce. Please note that by no means do we advocate introducing distributed ledgers in the numerous CPR where sustainable governance is already in place. The grammar of the IAD helps us identify the rules that could be properly implemented over a blockchain. Coming back to the diagram displayed previously, we add indications of how a blockchain-based tool can implement versions of the IAD rules. On this diagram, red lines indicate types of rules that could be effectively encoded over a blockchain by ex-ante automation, while blue lines refer to ex-post verifiability. Dashed lines indicate rules for which recourse to blockchain can only partially work and necessitate extra care. Now that we have seen the main outcome of our research, we will use the time remaining to discuss caveats, challenges, and further questions. We do not advocate full reliance on automated distributed systems, but rather to make the best of what the tool has to offer. For natural commons, there will always remain a high dependency on off-chain data, such as the catch of fishermen, for instance. Thus, how to record and validate these data is of crucial importance, and oracles should be at the center of system design. We recommend relying on existing networks and local experts through validation, for instance via multi-signatures. Keeping humans in the loop is essential to ensure that the governance system remains adaptive and does not disempower communities. Relying on existing structures and integrating users at all stages of the governance process is, in fact, recommended in the 8 design principles. Indeed, the IAD identifies 3 decision-making layers that need to be intertwined with controls and participation in order to ensure sound processes. These levels are embedded within one another and are operational level, collective choice level, and constitutional choice level. Adding a rather complex digital tool should not jeopardize this polycentricity. Blockchains are likely to affect all 3 layers, including the constitutional choice level, in which the possibility to have an adaptive governance ultimately dwells. In particular, this means that agents should retain a form of control over the distributed ledger. This leads to one of the most important questions for implementation. So far, we have only discussed blockchains in a very broad and general way, a technology storing publicly and reliably data and transactions of tokens in order to ease governance situations. However, as seen in the previous slide, the choice of the type of blockchain is particularly important. Using a public blockchain would mean that members of the community are dependent on miners and agents with various interests and have little to no role in the governance of the blockchain itself, which we believe is an aberration. A smaller scale consortium blockchain would avoid this. It would retain the advantages of transparency and security without the risks of having external agents taking over. This is consistent with recommendations of the Bloomington School and is in line with many scholars working on blockchains for institutions. This paper is mostly preliminary work, and it calls for extended interdisciplinary research to develop cross-analysis of the IAD framework and blockchain governance. Following the Bloomington School methodology, this theoretical research should also be completed by experimental and empirical work. This empirical work would most likely take the form of pilot projects with horizontal design of the blockchain-based tool. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will now leave you with our 3 take-home messages. We believe that blockchains can be used for the governance of common pool resources. Relying on blockchain-based tool would yield a change of paradigm and could help address some recurring issues in CPR management. New challenges brought by technology must be taken into consideration, calling for a field-based bottom-up design. I am now looking forward to answering your question.